G'day folks and welcome to the Vookcast, Australia's Nintendo podcast. My name's Oliver Brandt and with me this week are Michael Goncalves,
Hey team.
Angelo Valdivia,
Hey, Paisanos.
and Luke Henderson.
Hello there.
We've got a great episode lined up for you this week, all about the recent Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase and everything that was in it, because we actually recorded an episode after a Direct instead of immediately before one this time. And that's including the Xbox game that set the worst parts of the internet on fire. But first, before we get into that, let's quickly talk about Pokemon. So there are new episodes of Pokemon Concierge on the way. So Pokemon Concierge was a smash hit stop motion animated series that released in late December. There were only four 15-minute episodes. Some were a little bit longer, some were a little bit shorter. But it was about an hour long all up. And it was really, really good. But there was only about an hour of it. So Netflix has announced that more episodes of the stop motion series are in development, and it's being produced as with the first series by Dwarf Studios in Japan, who do some really incredible work in stop motion animation. So yeah, did anybody else actually watch this, or is it just me?
It was the smash hit that no one else watched, I think.
I'm not gonna lie, I actually didn't even know it existed until this announcement.
It's really, really good. It's super cute. There's no like battling or anything like that. It's just like a young woman who's like burnt out from capitalism who goes to become a concierge at a Pokemon resort. And her job is basically just like make Pokemon happy. So she has to figure out how to do that. It's super, super, super cute.
I'm watching the trailer now. The stop motion looks excellent. Looks really, really nice.
Yeah, I remember seeing the trailer for it a couple months before it came out, and I was really keen to see it. And I just don't have a subscription to Netflix, so I just haven't watched it. But yeah, I'm a huge sucker for stop motion as well.
Yeah,
so I'm just looking at the tomato meter here on average tomatoes, and it's got 100%. But I can't find any of the reviews.
Oh, you have to specifically click through to Series 1 to find the reviews. If you're just on the page in general, then you can't view the reviews from that. It's very strange. Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to find out who actually reviewed it. So someone at The Atlantic, someone at Inverse, Geeks of Color, Common Sense Media, The Mary Sue, IGN Movies, gave it a 7.
I mean, the thing I think we should need to be more impressed about is the fact that Netflix greenlit a second season for something.
I mean, yeah, given how Netflix has been lately.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that whole Avatar: The Last Airbender series that I have to watch for work and I'm not enjoying. Yeah, so it's
I watched the first episode of that last night, and I'm intrigued.
There was somebody I saw on Twitter who was like, every single shot of this looks like it's a Super Bowl ad, and then like I could not stop thinking that when I saw that tweet, because every single shot does look like a Super Bowl ad.
So like just from the first episode, like, and I'm assuming everyone's complaining about this. Like my first two complaints, the writing is awful, and the CGI is surprisingly awful, considering how much money they spent on it. They spent an absolute ton of money, and it just looks so weird. Like I don't know what's going on.
I just saw somebody complaining that he flies without the glider.
Yeah, that's literally like the first 60 seconds of the first episode.
It's wild.
I was going to review it.
They don't aim to improve a lot of the TV shows if they get panned. They just straight up cancel them. So we'll see what they do with this, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think this has been straight crapped on as far as I'm aware. It's got really mixed reviews. There's some people that absolutely love it and some people that hate it, which is pretty much exactly what I expected.
It's currently rotten on Rotten Tomatoes with 59% by critics. So. But then Halo has 82. Is an 82%.
Yeah,
fresh,
it does.
So weird. What a time.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, watch Pokemon Concierge, people who have Netflix subscriptions, because it's really good and cute.
Or people that don't. I'm not your dad.
I'm not going to tell it you. Nobody's going to call the cops here. Just watch it. Anyway, let's get stuck into the Direct. So there was a Nintendo Direct partner showcase, not a Nintendo Direct mini partner showcase, which is what they usually are. So we actually haven't had one of these since 2020, where we had a shit ton of them because Nintendo didn't have anything to announce. So yeah, there were a whole bunch of announcements. It went for about 25 minutes, and they just dropped the video on us, not any kind of stream or anything. So, big complaint from everybody who worked in the media, because we all just had to fucking like scrub through it and try and get all the announcements out of it. But there were a lot of really good announcements.
I didn't have that problem because I didn't stay up till 1 a.m. to watch it.
Oh yeah, true.
Stupid time.
So yeah, we'll go through some of the bigger announcements, and then if there's anything else that stands out at the end, we can talk about those. So Xbox got some Switch games. Other way around, Switch got some Xbox games. It would be very impressive if Xbox got some Switch games. Can you imagine? Anyway, so for the past couple of weeks, rumors have been swirling about Xbox going third party, which like is not really what's happening. But people were saying that Xbox Game Studios titles would be coming to Switch and PS5. People lost their absolute minds over it. And really, just the worst kinds of people lost their minds about it. But the outrage on Twitter and in the media and stuff was just so big that Phil Spencer decided to do a podcast about it, just saying like, hey, there's 4 games coming to Switch and PS5, so stop complaining. So the games that are coming to Switch are Grounded and Pentiment. Pentiment is out already and is very good on Switch. And Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush are coming to PS5. I think Sea of Thieves is also coming to PS4. Is that right, Luke?
No, PS5 only.
No. One of them is coming to PS4 as well.
I think it's Grounded.
Pentiment and Grounded are hitting both PlayStation 4,
Right.
5, and Switch. But Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves are PS5 only.
Makes sense. So yeah, Grounded and Pentiment. I don't think anybody is really going to play Grounded on Switch, or should really play Grounded on Switch.
I was
even in the
honestly
trailer
wowed
that they had.
that they said that game was going to Switch. I'm like, really? A big online required game with a largish world? Okay.
I mean, if you watch in the Direct, like they even show some stuff that is like running at like sub 15 frames a second.
Yeah.
A lot of it looks fine, but like there's like some combat scenes where it's like very clearly very, very poorly running.
I have it running on Steam Deck through Game Pass, and even on that, it's choppy.
Yeah.
I can count the polygons and the pixels and the textures. Like watching the video, it's not great.
On one hand, collectively.
But yeah, Pentiment. I mean, yeah, that is a game that looks fine on Switch and runs fine on Switch. I mean, was never going to be a game that
I played
performed poorly on
Pentiment
Switch.
when it came out on Xbox a year or so ago now, and it's definitely a niche game. Like if you're not a story-based gamer, because there's no combat or anything like that, it's all about decisions. And if that's not your type of game, this won't matter much. But the actual writing in Pentiment and the gameplay itself is fantastic. And to see it come to Switch isn't a surprise. Out of all the games that were rumored to come to Switch, Pentiment made the most sense.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, Sea of Thieves, like whatever, like they'll probably come to whatever the successor is to the Switch. Same with Hi-Fi Rush.
It is a rare game. We are getting those by the bucket load lately.
We are, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna buy either of these because I've already played them on Xbox. And that's sort of the same with Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush. Is like I already have those on Xbox, but I mean, the whole point of this strategy is that there are people who don't have Xboxes, and there's a lot of people who don't have Xboxes. So offering
I
these
think that's
titles,
been like, oh, this is gonna sound awful, but whatever. I feel like that's been like the Switch's wheelhouse, like lately. Like it's games that you shouldn't play on Switch if you own literally any other way of playing video games. But then if you don't have that, then these are few. And yeah, it's really weird. Like I think Pentiment's probably fine to play on Switch. Like, it's not one of those games that is gonna be really performance based or like run like shit on Switch. But granted, like just if you have literally anything else, just to play it on that.
Yeah.
These two games also make the third and fourth Obsidian games to hit Switch after Outer Worlds and Pillars of Eternity.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I would say like there's been quite a few games lately that have been multi-platform that use Switch as the target platform, and that usually works out pretty well. Like Prince of Persia had Switch as its target platform, as Ubisoft often does with its multi-platform releases, and that's really, really good on Switch. But yeah, there have been a lot of games that like, I don't know, I kind of feel like if you can't get it to an acceptable state on Switch, you just shouldn't put it on Switch. And there's a lot of developers who won't care about that, and who will just put it on Switch because
I feel like you should
in the
do that.
That's that.
I feel like you should do that with any game. Like, don't release games that are bad in that like performance / bugginess state. But it just isn't where we're at. Like the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, whatever the fuck the 17th Final Fantasy VII game is called. The image quality on that for the demo, I think they've patched it now, was awful, like absolutely awful in performance mode.
There was something weird about that, and it was in the full game as well. I've been playing it for review, but like it was like, because we know that it's rendering from Digital Foundry. We know that it's rendering like at like 1200-ish p in performance mode, up to 1440p, but like it looks so much worse than that. Like I've played games that are rendering at like 900p that get upscaled to 4K, and they look better than whatever was going on with Final Fantasy. And there was also like a whole bunch of ghosting as well, which was not pleasant to look at. So yeah, I don't know what they were doing with that, but it has been patched now.
Yeah, I'm not downloaded the updated version. I don't know. I hope it looks better, and it is better. But yeah.
I mean, it's definitely not as blurry, and the ghosting is effectively gone now. But it still doesn't look like it should. But I think playing that game in quality mode is like almost impossible. It's horrible to play in quality mode. Anyway, Nintendo Direct stuff. We could talk for ages about the whole Xbox thing, but I don't think it really matters. Like, Xbox isn't making enough money to justify keeping all of its games exclusive to the Xbox platform, so they're putting them on other things. That's basically what it is.
Is Xbox isn't the moneymaker for Microsoft. It's Windows, it's Office, it's Azure. That's where they make their money. And the other thing too is Xbox have already published a few games on Switch. They did it with the first Ori game. That was them. They published that on Switch. So this is not new for us. And heck, back in the DS and GBA days, they published games, they allowed developers to make games with their licenses. So we got, Banjo-Kazooie on GBA, we got Zoo Tycoon on the DS. So none of this is new for Nintendo. It's just because nutcases on the internet freaked out and blew it up to a massive state that it became a thing. So more games on more platforms is good. That's all there is to it.
It is. Exclusives are dumb, especially when you've been buying up studios like left, right, and center. Anyway, here's something that's not exclusive. That's
anymore.
Such a bad segue. Epic Mickey. It's for some reason getting a remake or remaster. It's super unclear what it actually is. They call it an enhanced remake on the PR, but like that doesn't mean anything because all remakes are kind of enhanced. And it looks more like a remaster than a remake, but I don't know. There's a new version of Epic Mickey, so it apparently features updated graphics, and you get a whole bunch of new skills and abilities for Mickey in the game. It's coming to Switch, of course, but also coming to Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. I don't think anyone was asking for Epic Mickey. I don't know why.
I'm a proponent of Epic Mickey. I loved the game.
I love it too
as a whole. But if you had a gun to my head, what series from the Wii deserved to be remade for modern platforms, this would not have even entered my top 50. It was definitely a product of the platform it was made for, and I don't think it's going to work without motion control because it was so dependent on motion control on the Wii, and maybe the Switch will have a motion control option and it'll work somewhat decently, but the other platforms, I just don't see it working properly. And there's also no giant paintbrush themed nunchuck controller for this version, so...
Did the original come to Xbox and PS3?
No, it was Wii exclusive.
Okay.
The two, 1 and 2 were Wii exclusive, and then the 3DS platformer was there as well. So.
Are there any Switch screenshots and/or video of this game?
There is.
I was looking at the article.
It was in the
yeah,
direct,
I think that's pre-rendered. I don't think
the
that's
cutscene
gameplay.
was, but there was gameplay.
There was gameplay in the direct footage, yeah.
Yeah, it's after the intro
blind.
cutscene.
So that's what.
So
it
in
speaks,
the
so to me, it speaks to as if it's a remaster rather than a remake.
I do think it's a remaster rather than a remake, but they're
Yeah,
calling
I
it
think
an enhanced remake. But
Is
The
it in the
cutscenes have
video
all
that's
been-
in the article? Am I just not finding gameplay?
It's so the one in the article is an extended thing, so they did a lot more of the opening intro movie bit, and the gameplay's
And that's
towards the back of
pre-rendered.
it. But
I
in the
swear
actual
there's no
direct-
gameplay. I swear it literally ends at the end of this intro. I feel like I'm going crazy.
yeah, I'm
I'll
like
put a
scrubbing
link
through
to
it
the-
now, and I'm not seeing.
I know it
any
is. I'm
gameplay.
scrubbing through it. Yeah, it is literally just the intro movie.
Yeah, okay, cool.
All right,
I thought I was
I'll put a
going
link
nuts.
in the direct, and if you go to the direct and then scrub to it,
Thank you.
Yeah, there are clips of gameplay.
Because those screenshots in the article are definitely not Switch.
Full shots.
Alright, Epic Mickey was like towards the beginning. Yes.
There it
Yeah,
is.
so if you go to like 5:30, you can see there is gameplay
Oh, yeah.
on Switch.
Cool.
It looks fine.
Looks fun.
I mean, it's interesting. Like I was surprised to see this because literally only about 3 or 4 months ago, I was thinking about, oh man, I've never played the Epic Mickey games. I wonder if they're on Steam. And I was considering just getting them for the Steam Deck, and I can't remember if I even found them. And then I just properly forgot about it, and then remembered today when I watched the partner showcase. I'm like, oh, hot damn! I'll just get it then.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Again, I loved Epic Mickey on the Wii. And I'm always down for weird Disney stuff, but it's a weird one to pick. I don't understand why they're like, hey, Epic Mickey, this is what the people want. But I mean, Disney's been doing that with a lot of its games lately for some reason.
I don't think it's Disney so much as I think it's people come to Disney and say, hey, we want to license this. Are you happy to? And Disney's like, yeah, free money for us. Go for it. The weird thing for me is THQ Nordic, obviously the Embracer Group, and they suck at making things. So the fact that this one is like almost ready to be released, it's like, okay, it's been sitting on it for a while, and that's probably the reason it didn't get canned. But the developers of this are Purple Lamp, the same folks that did the original SpongeBob game, like start of last year, and then the remake of Battle for Bikini Bottom, like 2 years ago or 3 years ago now. So they're really pumping out the stuff out of that studio, which, given how much Embracer keep laying people off, is kind of surprising.
Well, it's probably the only part of Embracer that is actually making any money right now. So
How much
True.
of Epic Mickey? How much of Disney's like contemporary trademarking is in Epic Mickey? And I mean like characters and things like that. Because all I saw
think,
was Mickey
Everything,
and then
everything except Steamboat Mickey, Steamboat Willie Mickey.
So like is like
Is
Pluto in this
Steamboat-
game? Is Goofy?
Is Steamboat Willie Mickey in this game?
Yeah,
Yeah, that is
or
the
there's
Mickey that you
there's
play as.
references to it. The
Okay.
side-scrolling one has more, but there's
'Cause I just
everything
wonder if-
that's
I just wonder if like Mickey, the original Mickey Mouse, being out of copyright has something to do with this. Like I'm not saying it to be.
I was thinking that
I wonder
same
if
thing as
has.
well, but
Because like the
I
only
don't
other character that I recognize is I can't even remember his name.
Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, right?
No, I wasn't even thinking of that. It's the big bad dog guy.
Pegloid Petey's his name officially, but people
Petey,
should
that's it. Petey, yeah. That's the only other one that I recognize. I didn't recognize any other characters apart from that and Oswald, obviously.
I know this one has like Clarabelle Cow and Horseshoe Horace and those kinds of
Horace
classic
Oswald.
characters. Yeah, that's the one. Fucking whatever. But yeah, so it has like more of the classic characters. But I mean, like in terms of copyright stuff, it doesn't really make that much of a difference in the grand scheme of
No,
things.
most of the characters from this are from the 30s and 40s, which are still in copyright. It's generally only the Steamboat Willie, late 20s content that is now copyright free.
Yeah. Move on to the next one. One for Michael, I think. There's a new Super Monkey Ball game.
Hell yeah,
it's
baby!
called Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. Has over 200 new stages through the adventure mode and more in the puzzle and everything else modes. So there's local co-op for 4 players. A spin dash mechanic, which seems interesting. There's motion controls for Switch and 16-player online. So it's coming out June 25th. Michael, tell me about the spin dash mechanic and how much you hate it.
I just like so. This is one thing I just don't get about Sega and Monkey Ball. We don't want any new goddamn mechanics, Sega. We just want more fucking levels. Stop doing it. Don't want to jump. Don't want any of this crazy bullshit. Just give us more levels. That's all we want.
Just 3 things: levels, bananas, and monkeys.
Yes, literally. But you know what? I'm sure it's going to be reasonable. I guess we'll see. Like I think the level design of the puzzles has been like the biggest problem in the previous newer games. So I guess we'll see how they go.
Yeah, I mean it looks okay in the trailer. I think it looks quite good actually. I mean I know that there's not like bumpers alongside every single track, which I know has been a big complaint for a lot of Monkey Ball fans. A lot of them still do. But yeah, I mean, it looks alright. The weird 16 online players elimination battle royale mode is one of the strangest things, because what Monkey Ball players are oh yeah, I'd really love to jump into Monkey Ball online elimination mode with 15 other players. Nobody does that.
How do we appeal to the kids?
Well,
was that a banana pun?
I don't think.
I mean, it is now.
I mean, they say that at the end of the trailer.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, I don't know who that is for. Who is that game mode for?
Oh, whatever. It's for the people who like jumping, or spin dashing, or whatever it's called.
The fact that it has motion controls is great, but the fact that it also means it doesn't have motion controls is just as great. I think they're more just throwing a whole bunch of new stuff in it for people who maybe don't know the series. It still just blows my mind that the folks who make the Yakuza the Like a Dragon series are the same folks making this. They just shipped Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and now they're making a new Monkey Ball game.
Oh, I'm sorry to be that guy.
Range.
I'm sorry to be that guy, but I think this series, for longer than not, it has had motion controls.
No, because the GameCube ones didn't have motion controls.
Exactly, and then the Wii ones came out, and since then they've all had motion controls.
Time-wise, yeah, I think you're correct.
Because I'm about to say something real highly. I'm about to say something highly offensive here. My my first and really only Monkey Ball game was Super Monkey Ball on the iPhone 3G.
God.
And I loved the hell out of that game. It was so good. It was amazing.
I think they've obviously learnt from the past, because they immediately said, when they talked about motion controls, they're like, optional motion controls. And I'm like, excellent.
I mean, it'll probably work well because, with the Pro Controller, you just kind of tilt the controllers like you did in those.
I'm sure it is. I have no problem with people who enjoy motion controls. Live the dream. I just don't like it when it's forced. Don't make me use it.
Yeah.
Well, I know speedrunners.
It's also an accessibility nightmare. Don't force people to use motion controls for that reason.
That's true.
Yeah. I know speedrunners of the Switch version of the previous Monkey Ball games use motion controls because it allows you to more quickly flick the stages.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's Splatoon, right?
Well, yeah, Splatoon is more about
tilt aiming.
Yeah. So yeah, June 25th. I'm assuming Michael's going to be buying that day one, huh?
This is Switch exclusive. I don't even know.
Yeah, Switch exclusive and
so,
a completely original game.
Yeah, they did confirm that it was not a remake of previous ones.
No, it's one of the things I double checked when I was writing it up. I'm like, because they've had so many at this point, and then the Switch has had 2 remakes already. This is the 3rd game on Switch now, or am I?
Yeah, Banana
miscounting?
Blitz and the 1 and 2 remake.
Yeah. So yeah, I honestly double checked that because I'm like, I don't know if this is original or not, but yeah, it is completely new.
Excellent. Then yes, I'll be purchasing it.
What's absolutely bonkers though, again, as an iOS purist over here for Monkey Ball, it is absolutely bonkers to me that there is not an Apple Arcade version of Monkey Ball. That would absolutely
Hang on, because
rule.
they announced Samba de Amigo last year during a direct in like June.
Yeah.
And then like a month later they announced the Apple Arcade version.
Yeah.
And then like a week after that they announced the VR version. So
They did. But that game,
could
like,
still
I feel like Monkey Ball is like perfect for iPad. It'd be super good.
Mhm.
Anyway,
All right, so let's talk about Nintendo Switch Online, because there were
we
5.
never talk about Nintendo Switch Online.
I know this is a rarity. Anyway,
Oh! haha.
I know, right? So there were 5 new games added to Nintendo Switch Online during the presentation. All of them are rare games. So for the NES, we got Snake, Rattle and Roll, and RC Pro Am. For the Super Nintendo, we got Killer Instinct and Battletoads. And on N64, we got Blast Core, which I know a lot of people were very happy about. So there are still a few titles that are notably absent, like Conker's Bad Fur Day, Banjo-Tooie, and Diddy Kong Racing.
Conker's Bad Fur Day. Oh boy. I don't think that's ever coming to the Switch Online.
Oh, I think it will eventually. But yeah, it is a start, and this is like just a big drop of rare games. Japan also got Mother 3 on Nintendo Switch Online, which everybody was mad about.
Oh boy.
But, like, who cares?
Let's open that can of worms, shall we?
Just play the fan translation. Like, Nintendo's never going to give it to you. Just like download.
I was thinking about this when there was a discussion in the Vookcast Discord about it, and I'm just like, man, the fan translation has been out for so goddamn long. Like, if you really want to play the game, like you said, just play the fan translation. It's there, it's available. Like,
again, like, we're not going to call the cops on you. Just play it. It's pretty good. Anyway, rare games on Nintendo Switch Online.
It is interesting in the art they put up, which I'll just flick it on screen now, with the boxes all lit up like in stars. At the end of it, there's 4 more boxes that appeared, and internet sleuths were like, "Oh my god, this means more games are coming," and it's like, of course more games are coming. You have to be smoking something absolutely asinine to think they wouldn't just they just release 5 games and call it a day.
Yeah,
just made me laugh when they started doing that. That we see these boxes, so obviously more games are coming.
Last Core, I feel like, is the kind of sleeper hit out of these. I mean, the Killer Instinct fans will probably be all over that, but Last Core was actually super fun.
I think Snake, Rattle and Roll is a sleeper hit of this list. That game's a fucking banger.
I wouldn't argue against it. Yeah, it's so good.
I mean, I personally don't think there are that many fantastic games on the NES, but like Snake, Rattle and Roll is definitely one of them that I think is top tier.
I know a ton of people were, I guess, I don't know, disappointed by this. It's obviously not the games they wanted, but like, in a small amount of positivity that I'll give towards Nintendo right now, like, I actually think it's a solid list of games to drop 5 at once. Like, it's nice.
I think it's interesting that, like, you mentioned like Conker's Bad Fur Day and Banjo-Tooie, but like, oh, you did mention Diddy Kong Racing. Sorry, I was gonna say, like, that was the one that I think probably deserves the most of a re-return to the N64, considering that like any notable characters in that game were already available on other Nintendo games already, or platforms or whatever. Because like Banjo-Kazooie is already on the Switch app. We've got Diddy Kong in however many games.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's just a matter of time now, right? Like, there's no reason that Diddy Kong Racing couldn't be on Nintendo Switch Online.
And it's a legitimately great racing game. I feel like it's like peak kart racer. It was so good.
But yeah, I mean, it's not there now. I could care less about like Banjo-Tooie. Like, it's the worst of the 3 Banjo games.
The worst
It
of the
is.
three? What? Sorry, what?
Of the 3 Banjo games that
What
exist,
worse?
Banjo
Worse
Tooie
than
is
Nuts
the
and
worst one.
Bolts?
Yeah,
Are you
absolutely.
bonkers?
Nuts and
I
Bolts
was
is a
going to say
really
the
good
most
game.
offensive thing on this podcast today.
No, okay, Nuts and Bolts is a fantastic game. People don't like it because
Oh
it's not
my
the banjo that they want, but it is a
God.
really good game. As far as like
Delete
vehicle,
all evidence of this podcast existing.
Where does Grunty's Revenge come in then? Because that's a
it's
banjo
fine.
game.
It's fine. I mean, I wouldn't say like it's probably on par with Banjo Tooie, and I don't think any of them are bad. But I think Banjo
that
Tooie is
might be the
worst.
most controversial thing anyone's ever said on this podcast.
I think the people who really like Banjo Tooie haven't played it in a while, and the people who are like more critical of it have played it recently because it is not a fun game. Like, it's frustrating more than it is
I mean,
fun.
I'm not saying that aren't issues with it, but like worse than Nuts and Bolts is just like that's hard.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people didn't give Nuts and Bolts a really fair go, and I think if you go into it thinking of it as a vehicle builder game, you'll have a whole lot more fun than if you go into it thinking of it as a banjo.
Right, so that's exactly the point, though, is that Banjo Tooie and Nuts and Bolts are also completely different games.
Yeah, but you know we can compare them because they're video games. I don't know. I think Banjo Tooie is still the worst of the 3D games. You know, I think that's fine to say. It's frustrating. It's not fun to play.
I mean, it's fine to say, but you know.
I mean, no one else has to agree with it.
Yeah, of course. But I think anyone who's seriously played all 3 games will agree with me.
Again,
I honestly,
All right, putting it out to the listeners. Hit us up in the Discord in the Vookcast channel. Let us know if Ollie is wrong or right, and I will accept that decision.
I personally do not recall much of Banjo 2 because I remember playing Banjo 1 100 times, right? Even when it came to Switch Online, I remember putting more hours into it. Nuts and Bolts, I remember because of its unique mechanic, but Banjo 2, I couldn't for the life of me tell you anything about that game.
I mean, of
Because
the
I just
3,
don't have
Banjo
that
Tooie is the
memory.
one I didn't finish. But I don't remember hating it. I remember being super mad throughout Nuts and Bolts, even though I still finished the game and did enjoy some time with it. But I remember being like frustrated as all hell playing that game.
I mean, that's fair. But I think that kind of is true of like Banjo Tooie for me. I don't know. It's an infuriating game to play because it's so drawn out and there's so much backtracking and like just terrible game design in that game where like all of the problems that like DK64 has are present in Banjo Tooie, and like people just like rag on DK64 all the time, but nobody says the same thing about Tooie, which is weird to me. But no.
I guess it's because there was
Nostalgia,
already
right?
a good Banjo-Kazooie game anyways, people to fall back on, whereas there wasn't a
Yeah,
good 3D
true.
Donkey Kong game.
Anyway, whole bunch of good rare games. Give us the rest of them, please, Nintendo. Now for the big one, the one that Nintendo ended the direct on, and it wasn't a partner game. Well, it was kind of, but it's being published by Nintendo, so essentially first party. There's a brand new Endless Ocean game, 15 years after Endless Ocean 2. It's called Endless Ocean Luminous, and it has an ever-changing sea to explore, over 500 species of marine life, including extinct and mythical creatures, and 30-player online multiplayer, which looks utterly absurd. So it comes out on May 2nd, so just a couple months away now. And it looks really good. I'm super, super pleased that Endless Ocean is getting a new game.
The fact that it's also not just a remake or a recollection of the first 2 games, it's actually an all-new title, is a bit surprising.
This was definitely not on anyone's bingo card, like at all.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, as a collection, probably, but a whole new original game, no way in hell.
Yeah, I mean, like the day before the direct aired, there were like rumors that there was going to be Endless Ocean there. I was like, okay, we're going to get an Endless Ocean 1 and 2, like remastered collection or something. But like a brand new game is like just wild. I think it's really interesting that like it's something that we've seen with Nintendo a lot in the Switch generation is bringing back some of its older franchises that, you know, otherwise haven't really gotten much attention in the past decade or so. So yeah, I'm super keen for this, and 30-player online multiplayer is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Can we just talk about the fact that this Direct had so many bloody games that had multiplayer on it? This has 30 players, bloody... What was one before?
Monkey Ball.
We just talked about the game. Monkey Ball. 16 players online for Monkey Ball. Brand new Sword Art Online game, which is coming day and date to Switch and the other platforms, has 20 players online in 5 teams of 4. And then the Star Wars collection also has online multiplayer. It's like, I've never seen
we're missing out on the
so
biggest
much multiplayer.
We're missing out on the biggest multiplayer game news of the Direct, which is Suika game. And I'm not even saying that ironically, like genuinely, like that game is insanely popular, and the fact that it has multiplayer is probably going to be enormous for this game.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, and also too, the fact that the ocean always changes, does that now make Endless Ocean a roguelike? Every time you dive back in, is the ocean now different?
Yeah, I mean, they said that every time you dive in, it's different. So, I mean, that's a really interesting thing to do.
If
and
you
I kind of
dig
dig
your
it.
stuff.
I mean, maybe. It's hard to say.
Shark.
I'm
Roguelike
sad that
doesn't
the
mean
article,
anything anyway.
the screenshot links are broken, so I can only see them in thumbnail size, but I want to see them in full size.
Yeah, sometimes the CMS is weird about that. But if you can click on the eShop link, you can see. You can right-click and open image in new tab, and then you delete the $W = 1000. It's not the most elegant solution.
Thanks, Nintendo.
Every time. At least the eShop is still using regular JPEGs. Nintendo of America's, eShop page, they're using AVIF at the moment, and it pisses me off.
Hey, it's an improvement.
Cool.
They used to use bitmaps for a really long time.
Oh yeah, no, I remember the press site.
Yeah, I remember when they used to send. This is just a fun little look behind the scenes. It's like whenever we got 3DS footage from like Nintendo, it would be like a bitmap video, which like I didn't even know was a format that existed, but it's just like a whole bunch of bitmaps like strung together, which just the weirdest format. Anyway, and the social, it's really good. Yeah, but, like seeing in the footage, like 30 players, like it looks chaotic as hell. Like,
yeah,
I like the fact that it's there. I don't know if I'm ever going to be getting like 29 of my friends together to play Endless Ocean. But
I don't even know. I don't have 29 friends.
Like, I was going to say the same.
I think between the 4 of us, we might get 20. I honestly just wonder why this game's getting, or why this series is getting a new game now. Like, if they tested the waters, and I didn't mean that to be a pun. I think this episode's going to be full of these puns. But if they'd done like a test with like a remake of the first game or a bundle of the first 2 games, and it did well, and then they're like, cool, well, that did well, let's do another one. That'd have made more sense to me. But this one sort of just came out of nowhere, and I just same with one of the other games. Like, I don't know who's asking for it. Like, is the Endless Ocean community so massive online that I've just completely ignored it, and they were demanding new games, or am I just Nintendo just doing what Nintendo do?
Nintendo's doing what Nintendo do.
I think
straight up.
I think a lot of this probably came from Arika, who's the developer. They also did Tetris 99, Super Mario Brothers 35, and Pac-Man 99. So I think they've earned a lot of goodwill within Nintendo.
Super Mario 35, rest in peace.
Look, like, just zooming out a little bit here, like having a look at pretty much all the games that were announced, like there were very few new announcements, if any, in this Direct, right? Like everything is just.
There were heaps of new announcements.
Well, but like a significant majority of them are like re-releases of other games or past releases of Nintendo games.
You're talking about
original
new titles.
Yeah, so like Endless Ocean, sure, is an original game, but it's based on a property that we haven't seen for like, 12, 13 years or something like that, which in all seriousness is probably because they, for whatever reason, they probably couldn't port the Switch versions over. Like, they probably just decided, okay, we'll just make a whole new game out of it. I mean, like, we're getting a whole bunch of Nintendo Online games. We're getting a sequel to a Monkey Ball game. We're getting Epic Mickey, again, another game that we're kind of like, who's this for? Mother 3 is coming to Japan only. Again, we're like, why only Japan? Like, I think there's a lot of like questionable sort of dredging up of the past in this. Star Wars, Battlefront, like, okay, like, I think in general it's just a lot of just re-releases.
There are more non-re-releases than re-releases.
I think this was definitely, I don't know if we're going to talk about this today, but I think this was definitely planned before the other big rumor stuff that's been happening the past week.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's sort of, if that is happening, then yeah, this was just sort of like a little stopgap that wasn't meant to, be a blip. But yeah.
Like, I'm looking at some of the ones we haven't mentioned yet. So there's like Pocket Card Jockey Ride On, which is basically a port over from the Apple Arcade version with some extra features on it. Monster Hunter Stories, again, a port from the Apple Arcade version, which has some like all new voice acting and things like that in it as well. Yeah, I don't know. There are some cool games that we haven't mentioned that aren't even on the run sheet that look really interesting to me, at least. Like a Ranger role puzzling adventure. That game looked, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, that actually looks really interesting and something I haven't seen before in an indie title. Something derived from one of those, like, 3x3 like little puzzle shifting games. Like, I would love to see more of that game.
Has a really cool art style as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Pepper Grinder is another one that looks super nice. I've been following the development of that for a while, and
another Crab's Adventure as well. Looks really, really cool.
Yeah.
But World of Goo 2 is another re-release from yonks ago.
I mean, yeah, that came out on. Did it on, like, I think that was an Apple Arcade thing.
World of Goo was one of the very first WiiWare titles originally.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about World of Goo 2. So that is a new.
No, it's day one. It's PC, Mac, Linux, and Switch exclusive for console.
The most exciting one for me is the new Gundam Breaker 4. Super keen for that. The Gundam
Again,
Breaker
another game that has online multiplayer.
It does. But yeah, Gundam Breaker, the series is really, really good. It has not traditionally done super well in the West, but Gundam in general hasn't in the past. It's getting a lot bigger.
I feel like this is a kind of direct that would have been like really huge news back in like maybe the second or third year of the Switch existing. Like you're saying, with all the multiplayer features and things like that. Like, kind of having them now at the tail end of the Switch's lifetime. It's like,
Well, I mean, like, if the next console has backwards compatibility, as we all expect that it will, then like it doesn't really matter when these get announced, right? Because they'll be playable on the next thing as well.
I'm hoping it'll have backwards compatibility. We'll see.
I think Nintendo would be really, really stupid to not have some kind of backwards compatibility.
Nintendo's done some stupid things in the past, man. I'm not putting it past them at all.
I mean, sure, but like they've, except for the Switch, had some kind of backwards compatibility on most of their handhelds and consoles. So I think they'll do. They'll probably do it.
One of the games from the that we wasn't in our big list that I really was like, wow, they're actually bringing this out was the Battlefront collection of 1 and 2. I love those games on the Xbox. I thought they were fantastic. But the thing that sort of annoys me is they officially call it the Battlefront Classic Collection, except they've only put 2 of the 4 games in there. It's like, is it a collection if you're missing half the product? If they said Classic Collection Volume 1, then sure, but they're not. They're saying this is the whole collection. It's like, you're missing half of your games, so I don't think you can call it a collection. I don't think it works that way.
That's across all platforms, though, because it's even called that on PSN, which is where I even found out that this was coming out. I didn't even see this in the direct initially.
Yeah, I mean, just like at work, we've been like taking a look at what was trafficking well, and the Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection is definitely the best, like probably the most hyped up thing from the direct, which is kind of interesting. But I think that's mostly because it's multi-platform, and
one of the things I love about it is in the PlayStation blog post about about the collection coming to PlayStation, is they made a deal about Kit Fisto, now arriving on PlayStation for the first time. And obviously in the trailer they made a deal about him being playable. He was one of the first essentially DLC characters for the I think Battlefront 2 on the old Xbox, the original Xbox. And it was a promotional thing. So he was the only way to get that character originally was to have the Xbox version. So now everyone's sort of making a deal about Kit Fisto being, released onto other platforms. And I just think it's the stupidest thing to hype up out of a collection of games. So
Kit Fisto's really cool though.
They make a big joke about him in the Disney parks. Whenever they do characters, Kit Fisto comes out like once every 2 years. So they've always made a big joke about him never appearing. So it's a bit of a thing in Star Wars.
I will say one of the other announcements in there was Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, which is like an enhanced version of SMT5, which was previously a Switch exclusive. It's coming to all of the other consoles as well: PS4, PS5, Xbox Series, PC, etc. But it's like mostly the same game, except like you can make a choice at the beginning, so like the second half of the game is like a little bit different. Unfortunately for people who already have SMT5 like me, if you want that new content at the end, you have to pay $80 for it, because they are not offering an upgrade path for Switch owners of the current game. It's just the most ridiculous thing. Like
it could be because they're Atlas and they do stupid things all the time, or it could be because the game is so fundamentally different that it's not an easy.
But it's not fun because you can play through again, like you can play through the original mode in its entirety, and it's just there. So like wait,
no, so I don't mean content wise. I mean like save file wise. Maybe that's why they're electing not to do it.
Possibly, but I mean, like that's a problem that they would have created for themselves,
Yeah.
Which is something that we see Nintendo do a lot, but Atlas, I guess. I mean, it's a money thing, right? They do the exact same thing with like the Persona series, how they have Persona 4 Golden and Persona 5 Royal and all of those kinds of things as well. And so they're just doing it with SMT now as well. And I think it's such a bullshit thing to do, to be like, hey, here's a very slightly changed version of this game, and you're gonna have to pay full price for it. Yeah, I don't know.
One of the games that I think is absolutely hilarious that we finally got actual gameplay for is South Park Snow Day. Because if you've seen, they did I can't remember, Stick of Truth and then the Fractured But Whole, and those games look fantastic. They look exactly like the show. They're solid games. And then for the third one, they decided to replicate the N64 game look for whatever reason. And it's like, South Park does not look good in 3D.
Wait, is this like a sequel to those games? I thought this was a totally different concept.
No,
it's a totally different. Yeah, he's still the new kid. It's technically the third game in their series, but they've changed.
Oh wow! I thought this was just like a totally different type of game. I didn't realize this was the third game in that RPG series. That's wild.
Yeah, and
but it's not even that. It's just the fact that it's a different visual style.
Yeah, they're still wearing their fantasy outfits and everything.
I think it looks bad in comparison. Honestly.
Yeah, it totally does.
It looks super, super cheap.
It's just because of the shading and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks super.
I mean, I still remember playing South Park on Nintendo 64 with the turkeys running at you and everything. But yeah,
I love that.
It's just one of those things.
It was bad, but I loved it.
Oh yeah, but it's just one of those things where it's like, it didn't look good back then, and even more modern computing power has not made a 3D South Park game look any better. So I can't imagine they've looked at this and
it's
gone,
even worse than that. Like modern gaming power meant that we can just have a game that looks like the show, like exactly like the show. Like, why would you choose to not do that? It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, like
they've had to have looked at it at some point and gone, "This is fine. We're happy with how this looks."
Yeah, we've sort of perfected like 3D games that look like 2D shows. Like we've seen, they're not great games, but like the Peppa Pig games do look exactly like an episode of Peppa Pig. They did the same with Bluey the video game, which looks exactly like an episode of Bluey. And even like the South Park games that we've had in the past looked like South Park. So like it's weird to be like, let's have a 3D art style that like nobody cares about or wants, and it looks worse than, I don't know, it looks worse than any other game in the series. Like, it's a strange decision.
I mean, you want to talk about games that look bad? Let's talk about Contra Operation Galuga.
Yeah.
It's a brand new Contra game, which is generally reason to be excited, except that last one was literally hot garbage. And it's okay, a new one. It's being made by WayForward, who generally do side-scrolling games pretty well. And for whatever reason, the art style reminds me of Bionic Commando from the Xbox 360, that rearmed release. It's like, oh, we've stuck to side-scrolling, but we've made it 3D, and it's like, doesn't look right. There's something about it that just does not look right to me.
Yeah. It's another one of those ones that like just through, I don't know, for some reason looks super cheap, even if it wasn't necessarily super cheap.
Yeah.
And there's like a, I don't know, there's some 3D games that end up looking like that. I think it's easier to make like 2D games look a lot more professional than it is to make 3D games look professional.
And let's face it too, we've all sort of loved the WayForward games over the years because they stuck to that sort of 2D sprite, cell shaded look. They've all kept, every game they've sort of done has had that visual style. Like they did the DuckTales remaster, which kept that style and people loved it. And then, the first game they sort of broke away from that with was the Shantae games, and that series took a nosedive. But then they kept going with the Advance Wars. They strayed away from the 2D sprite graphics to more 3D, and people didn't like it. So, I don't know.
I mean, I think people generally kind of liked Advance Wars, but I mean,
it hasn't sold, so I'm gonna say
no, but it never has. I mean, that's the thing with Advance Wars is that like
9 months,
it has some really
didn't
loud
break $1 million.
Yeah, but I think it has some really loud and dedicated fans that unfortunately doesn't translate to sales all that well.
Yes,
which is a shame.
We've seen how
really
loud some fans are in Xbox. The minority of things. Yeah, I will say too, the other thing, I did laugh when Fantasy Life, the Fantasy Life Either Girl who Steals Time, whatever it's called, from level 5 got dated. It's like, for most of 2023, they kept saying this game's coming out this year, and then towards the end of 2023, they're like, oh, we're slipping this to 2024, and now it's October 2024. It's like, this game was nowhere near ready. Then line out your ass again.
It's good though.
Just makes me laugh. It looks like a good game, but yeah, it's just stupid.
Anyway, if there's anything else that before we move on, if there's anything else in the direct that stood out to people, say so now. No?
Pocket Card Jockey boy.
I mean, Pocket Card Jockey is a really neat kind of game. I think it was good on the 3DS. It was good on Apple Arcade, and this version is good too.
I mean, I will say though, for Pocket Card Jockey, it is great to see that Game Freak, when they do make something that's not Pokemon, like Pocket Card Jockey, Little Town Hero, Tempo the Badass Elephant, they're generally fun games, and they're like games I don't mind playing. But when they keep getting shoved back onto Pokemon, I'm like, you guys could do so much better. So I'm happy that they're still doing more non-Pokemon things.
I think they always will. They have this thing called I think it's Project Gear within their studio, where they can take some time off Pokemon if they want, and anyone who wants to go with them to create this small little project, they can. I've seen a lot of really great things out of that. Like we had Harmonite, which was a platforming rhythm game. We saw Little Town Hero, Pocket Card Jockey. There was Giga Wrecker as well, which wasn't a super great game, but still. And now they've got this new big game that they're working on with somebody. I can't remember who it was.
Private Division,
that's right. So that'll be really interesting as well.
It's currently called Project Bloom.
Yeah.
So, quick update. I've just loaded up Super Monkey Ball Sakura Edition on iPhone. Just because I was curious. And the first thing that shows up on the screen is it asks for my age. Put in my age. And then the second thing it shows is like a whole bunch of ad options. So I already know I'm in for a good time.
Oh goodness me.
All right, I'm just gonna quickly delete this game. Bye bye.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great things, and as Angelo said, like the multiplayer mode for Suika game is huge. Very, very
The fact too, it's not it's all local multiplayer for now, and they're working on the online option, which is nice. It's one of the things. It's like, I think it would have been better if you had just said it's both today, and if it wasn't ready today, if it was ready in a month, do it in a month. But it's nice that they're working on it, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, again, going on with that theme of multiplayer, I'm just watching through the Direct again, and World of Goo 2 has a multiplayer mode added into it, 4-player.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of multiplayer stuff, and I think it's kind of interesting that like the first partner showcase that we get in like 4 years is just like all multiplayer stuff, because Nintendo stuff typically is single player or like has token multiplayer modes. So,
and I also pointed this out too, but this is the first Direct of any kind in years we haven't had some random farming game just shoved in there.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's no farming
like
games
some
at all.
giant farming element.
Fantasy Life is that, isn't it?
Well,
No,
you
'cause
can
do-
be a
you can do-
farmer.
You can. You can also be a cook or a warrior. It depends on what you want. It's not like a core mechanic.
That I'd argue that the core mechanic is a farming simulator. You're just literally just wearing a different hat.
No, I mean, I think the point of this one is that like the job that you choose drastically changes the gameplay. That's one of the things that they've spoken about in the
But the
past.
core idea is you're
It
just
does-
building a town, which is what you do in farming sim.
Well, I mean, yeah,
You're making
but
friends.
like I wouldn't
you're
call
doing
Animal
jobs.
Crossing a farming sim. So,
Okay.
Okay, let me rephrase it. There was nothing that was bespoke farming. There wasn't like a giant deep dive element to farming in the game.
There wasn't a farming sim category this time where they announced about 7 different games that all look the same and they're all anime inspired. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah.
alrighty. Well, yeah, that was the Direct. In like 2 days' time, 3 days' time, there's going to be a Pokemon Presents. So in 2 weeks' time, we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll see how it goes. By the time we record again, they may have announced Switch 2, and we'll have moved on from Pokemon anyway. But we'll see how it goes. Let's talk about the games that we're playing, because we've been playing some fairly interesting games. Michael, let us know. What have you been playing? A lot of hell stuff.
Hello. Sorry?
A lot of hell stuff.
Yeah, a lot of games that contain the word hell. So I'm playing Hell Let Loose, which is a first-person shooter, like World War II sim game. I guess 50v50. It's pretty fun. It's very like squad-based, and like so you have a commander, and the commander talks to the squad leaders in their own little private chat, and the squad leaders can talk to each other, and then the squad leaders can talk to the squad members, and it's very like
You've
proper.
just said the word squad way too many times.
Sorry. There's a lot of like proper like communication stuff going on where like each squad does its own little thing like around the map, and the maps are quite large. Yeah, I've just been playing it with a mate. We play a recon squad, so it's just a sniper team. So one spotter, one sniper, and it's just I find it really, really enjoyable to play. And then the other Hell-based game is Helldivers 2, which I only started playing yesterday, and it's just absolutely amazing. Just beautifully satirical. The gameplay's fun. Like you're just murdering a million things. A lot of stuff to keep track of. It's fun. I highly recommend people play it if they want that style of game.
It's basically
Angelo.
Starship Troopers the game, right?
It is literally Starship Troopers the game.
I think
really
that's the initial appeal, and then you stay for just the mayhem.
Yeah, for sure. And it even has that, that dumb crowd of people that doesn't get that it's satire. It's absolutely beautiful.
Right. I know, right? It's so good.
Angelo, what have you been playing?
I've actually been playing recent games, so that's a huge huge thing for me at the moment. First one is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Absolutely loving it. I've been waiting for a new Prince of Persia game, half my life at this point. And I'm even happier that it's a side-scrolling action game as well. Yeah, super loving it. It's got an interesting story about not necessarily time travel, but just manipulation of time. So it kind of blurs like a sci-fi sort of plot with really cool fantasy elements. The combat's really cool. It's the Metroidvania turn with it. I think works really, really well. Art style's amazing, runs super well. Yeah, I'm just really, really loving this game. Super happy with it. And Assassin's Creed Mirage, another Ubisoft game. Yeah, having a lot of fun playing this with my partner. We're playing it together via PlayStation SharePlay, which I can't remember if I've mentioned it on last episode or something, but it runs surprisingly well if you're like interstate. If you've got access to a PlayStation where you are and you've got your PlayStation at home and you want to play with someone, works super well. It's just a bit janky in terms of setup. Only the person who has PlayStation Plus can host the SharePlay run. So, if you're the one with the account who's got PlayStation Plus, then your friend needs to have your account on their console. Hold on. The host account needs to have PlayStation Plus in order to start SharePlay. So if you want to play with them and they don't have the game or whatever, then you need to be like on a different account, basically, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Yeah, I got you now.
Yeah. So I'm using my like European account to dial in to my own main account on my PS5 at home for us both to be able to play. And my partner can then transfer the controls to me and I play for her, or she'll take over and just get the controls, if that makes any sense. It's, like I said, it's a bit of a janky way to do it, but if you can sort of work it out, it works decently. So yeah, but yeah, the game itself is quite fun. We're about 10 hours through and I feel like I've actually made progress, which is, different in a recent Assassin's Creed game.
Valhalla, 10 hours in, you hadn't even hit the opening title card.
Dude, I got 60 hours into that game and the end was not in sight. I'm like, I'm so done. I'm absolutely out of this game.
For real, I played Odyssey and it was the same. It was like I felt like I was like towards the end. Like I'd played for like 70 hours and I felt like I was towards the end. And then I looked up like how many more chapters there were and there were still like 7. And I was like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I just can't do this anymore.
But I think the difference with Odyssey there was that the setting was so much more interesting than Valhalla. Like Odyssey was like vibrant and fun, and the characters, were comedic and interesting and deep, and set in Greek mythology, which is really interesting. Whereas I find that Norse mythology nowadays is a bit too saturated. And Valhalla, the setting was just so depressing. Everyone's just angry and starving and dying, and everything is so glum. I'm like, why are we here?
I don't think the landscape is like interesting enough to make up for it either. Like it's just like, oh, here's some like hills with some grey fog rolling in. Like, cool.
England sucks.
I've seen this like 600 times.
But no, Mirage is really fun. So I'm really happy to be playing 2 good, fun Ubisoft games.
Mirage also got an update the other day that adds permadeath to it.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay. Never gonna touch that, but that's cool for those who like it.
There is actually a new Ubisoft game out as well. The first quadruple A title.
The quadruple A's for how long it's been.
I forgot that game existed. Goddamn.
Quadruple A game with a quadruple A development time.
Yeah.
They must have poured so much money into that game. Anyway, Skull and Bones is out, and it's apparently like fine.
So what's Beyond Good and Evil 2 then? Is that like quintuple A?
I mean, by the time it comes out, we may be up to like 7 or 8 A's. Like, honestly.
Right, okay.
It's going to be a launch game for the PlayStation 9.
When the game comes out, I don't even know if the letter A will exist still. So
yeah,
let's just continue to hope.
It'll be a Googleplex. There won't be enough matter in the world to be able to write the amount of A's.
All right, I'll talk about the games that I am playing. So I just I finished Final Fantasy VII Rebirth ahead of the review embargo. What a game that is! I know nobody else has played it and can talk about it, but it's just such a phenomenal game. I would very much encourage anyone who is a fan of Final Fantasy to check it out.
I talked about it quite a lot with Aaron, who reviewed it for me, so I've got some understanding of it. And basically, every time we spoke about it, he couldn't stop praising how much fun he was having with that game.
Yeah, I mean, like there are issues with it. Like it is a little bit bloated. So that there are instances where it just like you want to get on with the story and stuff, and it's like, well, here's like a card game mini game that you have to play for like an hour. Or like set up this minecart so you can do a minecart mini game. And there are a lot of mini games. Most of them are optional, but some of them aren't. And that is a little bit frustrating. It also has Ubisoft Towers, which I didn't think it needed. But otherwise, just an absolutely phenomenal game. And I think they've done really interesting stuff with the story.
Very quick question. You can just say yes or no. Final Fantasy VII Remake, I know that like towards the end, it really sort of deviates from the original Final Fantasy VII story. So, and I know that in Rebirth, there's that weird bikini scene where you're at the beach. So the one question that I have is, does this game do more weird stuff and deviate further from the original timeline?
It does very much do that. There's
Okay,
all of the
brilliant.
stuff that you know and love from Final Fantasy VII is still there. So like you'll still like hit the main beats, but like literally the opening scene is like something that is like going to blow a lot of people's minds. So
Okay,
I think
great. 'Cause
Essentially,
I feel like remakes and remasters and returns to old franchises need to do way more of that. We need to be completely obliterating the original timeline and doing some more weird. So I'm happy.
essentially, the 7 remake and rebirth is like the books, and the original release is the movie adaptation. It's hitting all the beats, but then there's so much more content now.
Yeah.
You know,
But
when
it
somebody
does-
adapts a
it
book to a
does-
movie.
Yeah.
it does very much do what only a remake could, and it's like, oh yeah, well all of this stuff, but here's how it's going to go different. It
I'm
doesn't
so
shy
out
away
of the
from
loop
that.
with this. This is 2 of 3, right?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Was it meant to be 2 at the
It
beginning?
was initially meant to be
Okay,
2.
cool.
They
I'm not
planned it
misremembering.
out at the beginning to be 2, but then the first game, they ended up splitting it out from, because essentially the first game was supposed to be like the intro to what Rebirth is.
Just the
and
intro
like-
sequence?
Yeah, essentially.
700
right?
hours.
It literally is just the intro sequence.
Yeah.
Like literally the entire that entire Final Fantasy VII remake is just like the first like 3 hours of the original game.
I really got to play it. I got to sit down.
But like it's
Goddamn.
50 hours long.
Yeah, so they did plan on
Right.
having 2 games to begin with, but then they split that into 3, and I think that was a really good decision. And they've done some.
And the third game's
good
coming
things.
out this decade?
Next generation, I'd
It
argue.
should be this decade. It'll be like at the very end of like PS5 generation, start of.
I mean, PlayStation have already said the PS5's on its way out, so who the hell knows?
Yeah,
They
that's
have
true.
exactly.
I will say
alright.
though, I've said this before, but I was in the audience at the E3 PlayStation press conference when they announced the remake was happening, and I swear the number of people that had to go change their trousers afterwards from that room was insane because they just were so loud.
Yeah, so I've also been playing anyway, yeah, play Rebirth. It's good. Also been playing Penny's Big Breakaway on PC. It's very good. There is Shiren the Wanderer, the Mystery Dungeon of Serpent Coil Island, the new Shiren game, which is where the mystery dungeon genre came from, is the Shiren series. And it's very, very, very good. A lot of people don't know this. Anybody who's played Pokemon Mystery Dungeon won't have seen sort of how the original Shiren series is. It is a lot more roguish, like roguelike-ish, in that like if you die in the dungeon, like you just start again. But super, super fun. Also been playing a bit of the release version of Solium Infernum, which is an Australian developed game. And that is super, super fun. Basically Civilization, but set in hell. And Last Epoch, which is a sort of Diablo-ish hack and slash action role-playing game. It's very like Diablo, but super, super good game. Although full disclosure, I did work with the person who now does PR for it, so take it. I'm biased, but it is a very good game. Luke, do you want to quickly take us through what you've been playing?
Yeah, so I finished God of War Chains of Olympus on stream earlier this week, or before we started recording, and then I started the original game because I'm playing through them in timeline order on stream. So it was weird to start the very first game again because by the time Chains of Olympus came out, there had been like 8 or 9 years. So there's a lot of quality of life improvements that were in that game that are not in the original. And even though this is the HD version, It's so weird to go back to that original title. It's still good, but it's just so many weird things in there now. But I've been playing the Tomb Raider remakes, recollections, remasters, whatever the hell they're calling that shit these days. I've also been playing Penny's Big Breakaway on Xbox. You can tell it's from people who love Sonic. There's a lot of Sonic influences across that game. And I've also been playing the Splatoon 3 DLC Side Order, which is their roguelike expansion, and it's good. It's not like Hades, for example. Every time I finished a run in Hades, I was like, okay, I could just do one more, right? One more run, and I'll see how I go. I'm not getting that vibe from this one, but I'm still enjoying playing it. So yeah, that's what I've been playing.
All right, let's move on to Nintendo 20 questions. So I believe Angelo is the person who is doing 20 questions this time. We did not discuss it beforehand, so I have no idea if he has picked a game.
Yep. I got it.
Nice.
Let's do it.
All right,
Let's do it.
get stuck into it. Do we want to do our usual question that Angelo hates?
No, I like the
Yes.
question. I hate the wording of the question.
Was this game released on or after January 1st, 2010? You know, if you tell us your weaknesses, we're going to use them against you, right?
Literally just say it was a release from the 2010s on or something.
I will never ever say that ever again.
2010 or after, right?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Okay. Was this released on a handheld console? On an exclusively handheld console?
Yes. Oh, wait. Well, yeah, okay. To go with your wording, yes, it was.
Okay.
Okay.
It has to be like late DS or 3DS, right?
I mean, let's be honest. Angelo also threw us for a loop that one time when he used Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, Star Fox 2 from the Super Nintendo Mini. I'm just
That was a
wondering if he's
great one.
picked-
That was a suggestion from Darren. That was such a good one.
I'm just wondering if he's gone ahead and picked like The Legend of Zelda for the Game & Watch collection thing that Nintendo put out.
Was this
Alright,
game
so
released
Mario Run.
on 3DS?
No.
So likely DS.
DS, that's just like, you know,
Casual 10,000
14.
games.
14,000 games to pick from, yeah.
Do we want to confirm it was DS?
I would.
It
Was
can't
this
be
game
anything
released
else.
on Nintendo DS?
No.
There we go. This is exactly why I wanted to.
It wasn't some
What else?
random Game Boy Advance game that came out.
Oh, it could be like a DSi thing. Like DSiWare.
Oh, are we different?
Oh,
Are we splitting
Class
hairs
A.
between DS and DSi? I wouldn't personally, but I guess we'll just clarify that.
That'd be like clarifying between PS4 and PS4 Pro.
Well, I mean, no, because there were no PS4 Pro exclusive games, but there were DSiWare games. The same way that
Still
there's like
same.
new 3DS
Oh,
games,
was-
right? Like,
I'll throw you a
did-
freebie. It wasn't
Yeah.
exclusive. It was not released on Nintendo DS suite of consoles.
Okay, perfect. Thank
Okay.
you. Oh my god.
okay, so I'm thinking like Miitomo, or Super Mario Run, because that's on mobile.
We've already had Super Mario Run.
Yeah, but Miitomo exists as well.
Yeah, true. Was this game released on mobile phones?
No.
What? I'm so confused.
Honestly, the only things I can think of are the Game & Watch things, but again, like, was there any sort of random GBA game that came out? I mean, Shantae just sort of got its limited run games release, and that was that GBA game that never finished until now. It should be something like that, but
I guess. The...
mean-
Was this game released on one of the Game Boy systems?
No.
Am I an idiot? What am I not thinking of?
Was this game released on a Game and Watch platform?
No.
Okay, now
Is it just a Switch game and we've just been like led down a trap?
No, because I asked if it was an exclusively handheld. Like that.
No, you said it was released on the handheld.
And then
No,
I
he
clarified
said
with
exclusively handheld. Yeah. 100% did.
Well, okay. Well, in that case, then.
Okay, so it's a Switch.
That's why we've been so confused.
Questions on it. So,
I missed exclusive. I missed that wording. Sorry.
Okay.
That's fine. That's just hilarious, though.
Why don't we? Would you want to roll back 4 questions? We can do that.
No, that's fine.
Only if Luke does a very special like VFX shot where we like scrub back in time.
I mean,
I think we can still get it from this. You know, we burned a couple questions, but then we got.
Well, in any
which is a
case, I'll
freebie,
give you that
so-
one as a freebie. I won't count that question.
Sure.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's switch. Cool. All right. Glad we got there.
Sorry, because I got tripped up on that question as well. That's why I had to like in my head play it back, and I missed the word exclusive. So I
No, it's totally
Right,
fine.
yeah.
Like
Because,
that's like
I was like, this could be ambiguous that I said like exclusively handheld after that. So
when I got to Game Boy and you laughed, I was like, are we dumb? Like, what is happening here?
Was this game published by Nintendo?
No.
Okay.
does this game have any RPG elements?
Yes.
Was this game?
Wait. Actually, just let me think about that for a second. Yeah, I'd still argue yes.
Was this game developed in North America? Or in America, I'll say that. The Americas.
No,
Okay.
that's 10.
Okay. So it has RPG elements not made in the Americas, which means it's likely Japanese developed. Not published by Nintendo, so it's not one of those weird exclusive Square Enix games. Because they were published by Nintendo in most parts of the world.
Yeah, but some were like distributed by Nintendo but never published, which like complicates things.
Yeah.
Like if we talk about like
I mean,
Bravely Default too, like
Yeah,
that wasn't
well-
published by Nintendo.
Octopath Traveler was published.
Yeah. But it's
Okay. Is this game part of a series?
Yes.
Okay. So it knocks out the weird ones like Oninoki and the Lost Sphere and all that sort of stuff.
There's a series that this game is a part of, been running for 20 years or more.
20 years.
So before
No.
2004.
No.
Okay.
So that knocks
And
out the
there's
Final
things.
Fantasies and the Dragon Quests and the Mana series and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Plan.
I'm assuming it's made by Square.
I don't know where we
Oh, that's
went to that assumption. I suspected it might have been Dragon Quest though, but since it's not, yeah. Interesting.
was this game developed in Europe?
Yes.
RPGs from Europe. That's a weird.
Well, it has RPG elements.
Games
It
with
might not
RPG
necessarily-
elements. Let's not pigeonhole ourselves here.
Sorry.
Like Dead Cells has RPG elements, but it's not an RPG.
Yeah. I mean, my mind's jumped to The Witcher. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
It would be an interesting pick, honestly.
Was this game well received upon on its release.
Yeah.
Okay, so unlikely to be some random game that we've not really heard of.
You still don't really have genre or publisher.
No.
Just think of that just then. Would the main genre of this game be considered an action adventure?
Yeah. Could argue that.
Okay. I mean, again, I'm stuck on The Witcher, but the only way to narrow it down is to start asking Witcher-specific related questions.
Does this game contain witches?
Is that a question?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
it can be if Luke wants it to be.
I'll just ask: Is this game based off a book series?
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, it's got to be Witcher.
Or it? I suppose it depends on your classifications, but I was just say it could be Metro. But that's more first-person shooter than action adventure.
I feel like Witcher is definitely it.
Yeah, I
ask
feel
if
like
there
that
are
too.
2 playable characters because you play as Ciri in some of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, you could ask the easier one. Did this series get a Netflix TV series?
Yes.
Now we find out there was a Metro series that came out like 4 years ago. We've never heard of.
Alright, I mean, it's got to be.
It has to be The Witcher 3. I can't think of anything else that would fit with what we have.
Okay,
Two
I
questions
feel like
and a guess.
now's the time for the meta question. Have you mentioned this game?
Yes.
I mean, we could burn a question to get more clarification, but I think it has to be Wild Hunt. I don't think it could be anything else.
I feel like we can definitely play risky. Like, I feel like if we lose it, I'm fine with it. Like, it doesn't even bother me. But it's like, I feel like we can either be those people that ask the really obvious lock it in question, or just go with what we think it is.
I feel like we go with what we think it is, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
let's take some amount of risk. I mean, we're pretty sure that it's going to be The Witcher, so.
I mean, I think we've done pretty well because we burnt like 18 questions figuring out what console it's on.
I think I also burned you guys on that one too, though.
It's totally fine.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
shall we? Luke, this is yours. You conjured it
okay.
from your memory.
Is this game The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt?
Okay. So, released in 2015, the action role-playing game developed and published by CD Projekt Red. Sequel to The Witcher and The Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, released on the Nintendo Switch, in 2019?
sounds
yeah.
right.
Nice.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, sorry. I
it's
always get...
Sorry.
Go on. I was just going to say, I always get tripped up whenever we get to the Switch and we ask if it's a home console or a handheld. That's why I had that brain fart, because I'm like...
Yeah, no, totally.
And the thing is, like,
because in my head I'm like, the Switch Lite is exclusively handheld and this game was released for that. So that's, yeah, my head went.
I was gonna say, like, I'm always like, so I'm not trying to say like how amazing we are, but I'm always like really amazed at how many games we can actually nail down in 20 questions. Like, it's really hard to like
the thing is,
actually
like,
get to that point.
That one you nailed down in like 11.
Yeah.
So even better.
I think, like, the thing is, right, there's like, we're getting better at this, but then like at a certain point we have to get into games that like nobody's heard of, and like everybody gets really pissed off if it's a game that nobody's heard of.
I feel like thankfully we're doing like the lifetime of Nintendo, and there's a lot of like very popular, well-known games on Nintendo consoles. I feel like that's probably a long way off, but we will eventually get there, I guess. And then there's also, me and Luke that just pull out some bullshit game that nobody's ever heard of that I think that everyone has heard of, and everyone's like, what? Solstice, the quest for the staff of Demnos, what are you talking about?
That's
Yeah.
great. No, that was good. You guys did well on that one. I'm very, very happy with that.
Oh, it was a good pick. Really, really good. Because it's like, it's obviously like a very popular game, but like for me, it's not a game that I would have immediately thought of.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought was Dragon Quest 11, but obviously did not end up being that.
Well, yeah, as soon as Luke mentioned the Metro series, I'm like, oh, that would have been actually a good one to choose.
Also, like in
Hey.
my mind, like I would squarely classify The Witcher as like an RPG, but like it really is like more of an action game. But just in my head, it's an RPG.
So I had to think about it for a moment because typically when you think of an RPG, one of the main mechanics is leveling up. You don't level up Geralt in this. Like it's just all about your spells and the equipment you collect. It's not about your character being
Totally.
leveled up specifically. So that's why I was like, yeah, I would argue.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that like
fair distinction.
upgrading the armor and stuff is like what I would consider to be the RPG elements, even though the game itself isn't specifically an RPG.
Sure, and I think you level up your spells too, right?
You can make your spells stronger, I think.
Yeah.
But like something like that is an RPG, whereas something like, Breath of the Wild is less RPG-ish because, like, I mean, there really aren't very many RPG elements at all. Like you can make your spells stronger once.
I'll point out for folks who love Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, there is the dumpster fire that is Kingdom Come Deliverance coming to Switch next month. And that game was rumored to be coming, then they said it wasn't coming, and then they said it was coming. And then 3.5 years later, we finally got our first look at it, and it looks absolutely horrible.
Yeah, it doesn't look like good at the best of times, but like even on a high-end PC, it looks kind of trash. So, I mean, I'm very looking. I mean, it's gonna be trash. It's gonna be real bad in terms of like both visuals and gameplay and everything. So, really looking forward to that.
If there was ever an example for Michael's statement about if a game doesn't run well, don't release it, this is probably that game.
Yeah, probably. Or just don't play it at all. I mean, it seems it's kind of trash. The developers are a bit sus too. Anyway, that about wraps up this week's Vookcast. So be sure to visit the site www.vooks.net for all your Nintendo news, reviews, and everything in between. To keep up to date, follow the site on Twitter, which is @vooks.net, all spelled out, or jump on over to our Discord at bit.ly/VooksDiscord. You can find all of our social information and the links for all of the stories covered in this episode in the episode notes on whatever platform you're listening to. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next fortnight.